It's Thursday, June 29. In the headlines, Education Minister addresses concerns about teacher migration. In business news, gas prices and diesel prices are down. Regionally, praise for Barbados' current tourism formula. Internationally, malaria detected in southern U.S. for the first time in 20 years. And in sports, Reggae Boys beat Trinidad and Tobago 4-1. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Juliet Holness is passionate about her role as political representative for East Rural St. Andrew. She was a guest on the Good Morning Minister show on Love 101 FM, hosted by Information Minister Robert Morgan.
It's my constituents now. I know every single community in the constituency. We have over 156 of them. And if I try to call them, some people are going to feel jealous. I know every single one, and I've visited every single one.
Mrs. Holness says family is the basis of any community.
Before I move on to why the CDF is important, I'll encourage Jamaicans to continue to encourage family. It is actually what builds communities. It is what builds constituencies. So I will not leave this conversation, Minister Morgan, without encouraging Jamaicans start to rebuild the family. The family is critical to how we think, how we behave, our outlook on the future, and how we literally build Jamaica.
In explaining the intricacies of representation and funding, Mrs. Holness explained that while funding of up to $20 million is available for use to help in constituency development, there are levels to it.
You can't say I'm not doing anything in terms of infrastructure. You see me, I want all of my money to be used for welfare. I'm only doing food packages. No, you're not allowed. Limits are set so that you must think of something sustainable that you can do to uplift the communities in the seat.
She says members of Parliament are given limits while creating their annual budget, and notes that one has to think of spending funds on a sustainable project while balancing the daily needs of constituents.
We have, in terms of roads, I did the estimate once, the budget for the entire country for roads is what it would take us to fix the roads in East Rural if they gave it to us 1 year. Strategically, I've looked at the main roads. What connects you from St. Thomas back to Papine? What connects you from Mavis Bank back to Papine, Garden Town, and from Maryland and Woodford back to Papine or back over to Norbrook?
She says members of Parliament do not get cash in hand.
MPs will never get the cash. As a matter of
fact,
MPs will never get the cash. You will never get $1 in your pocket.
So LPs do not see they have money in their pocket?
No time at all.
Just for clarity, the funds being discussed for use in a constituency is called the Constituency Development Fund, or CDF. According to the Office of the Prime Minister, the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, seeks to improve the effectiveness of members of Parliament as a designated funding mechanism for constituency projects. The main thrust of the fund is to promote human and infrastructure development at the community and constituency levels through the establishment of sustainable development projects. The fund is generally used to rehabilitate houses for indigents, fix roads, undertake agricultural projects, repair basic schools and community centers, provide back-to-school assistance, and assist with sports and healthy lifestyle projects. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, says Jamaica's expenditure for January and February 2023 increased by 12.9% to US $1.19 billion. This increase was largely attributable to higher imports of raw materials or intermediate goods, fuels and lubricants, and consumer goods, which rose by 3.2%, 20.3%, and 13.3% respectively. The 5 main countries accounting for Jamaica's imports for the review period were the USA, China, Japan, Colombia, and Turkey. Expenditure on inflows from these countries totaled $773.6 million, or 16.5% increase relative to the corresponding period in 2022. Statin says the growth was largely due to higher fuel imports from the United States of America. Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams has responded to concerns about a possible increase in teacher migration based on the number of vacancies for teachers being advertised in local newspapers. In one of the advertisements, the board of a rural school listed vacancies for 18 teachers in specific subject areas, with mathematics and English leading the list. But the advertisement did not say if the positions were permanent or temporary. Minister Williams addressed the matter at this week's post-cabinet press brief. She believes it's unwise to assume that the vacancies are connected to teachers seeking better opportunities overseas. She says many of the ads indicated that they want teachers for 4 months or 8 months, which makes sense because annually some teachers go off on their long leave. The minister said there are also teachers who transition from one school to another within the education sector, and others may choose to go and work for private schools. In the business report, gas prices are down. You'll hear by how much, plus we have your market details from our reporter, Danita Rodney.
According to the latest ex-refinery costs from Petrojam, motorists should see a decrease at the pumps in the price of gasoline and diesel effective Thursday, June 29. With both grades of gasoline down by $3.62, 87 octane will sell for $166.58 per liter, while 90 octane gasoline will sell for $170.10 per liter. Down by $4.50, automotive diesel will sell for $161.72 per liter. Ultra-low sulfur diesel will sell for $169.31 per liter, and kerosene will sell for $172.72 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum, down by 42 cents, will sell for $55.70 per liter, and butane liquid petroleum will sell for $62.81 per liter after a decrease of 44 cents. Remember that marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. The ATL Automotive Group on Monday extended its footprint into the auto dealers market, announcing it is now the exclusive dealer for Chinese electric vehicle brand BYD in the Caribbean. The company launched the brand in a short ceremony at the AC Hotel in Kingston and said the vehicles will be distributed by ATL Automotive as of October 2023. Adam Stewart, executive chairman of the ATL Automotive Group, said the group signed an exclusive agreement with BYD for the brand in Jamaica and will play a regional management role in 9 other countries throughout the Caribbean. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, June 28, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.41. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $118.08. The pound sterling traded for $195.77, and the euro sold for $171.82. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 902 points. The junior market index advanced by 2 points. The combined market index advanced by 869 points. And the All-Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 2,113 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 111 stocks, of which 54 advanced, 42 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Barito Investments Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firmware 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, Epley Limited 7.75% preference shares, and Honeybun 1982 Limited. The overall volume leaders were Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 8 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares, and Fontana Limited with over 4 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted a volume of 22 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was the volume leader with over 11,000 shares. They were followed by Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited and Goddard Enterprises Limited, which traded 160 and 123 shares respectively. In regional business, the Bahamas has hit a major milestone when it comes to transparency and the public purse. The U.S. State Department's 2023 Fiscal Transparency Report has deemed the Bahamas fully compliant. More in this report.
The Fiscal Transparency Report evaluates the performance of 140 countries. The Bahamas was one of 72 nations that successfully met the standards. But what does it mean for taxpayers? Well, it's critical for the proper management of how tax dollars are being spent. As for what the Bahamas got high marks for, the report says there was significant progress made to publicly disclose national budget documentation, contracts, and licenses. The U.S. Embassy issuing a statement saying the U.S. government has been proud to partner with the Bahamas in promoting transparency by providing almost $450,000 in financial, technical, and advisory support to the Office of the Auditor General.
In international business, the S&P 500 and the Dow closed lower after U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell signaled more interest rate hikes.
He also said the Fed will likely raise rates further and did not rule out a boost at the next policy meeting scheduled for the end of July. The Dow ended 0.2% lower, and the S&P 500 fell by a hair, but the Nasdaq rose nearly 0.3. The tech-heavy index got a boost from Apple, which hit an all-time high during Wednesday's session. Tesla, Microsoft, and Alphabet were also some of the S&P's biggest boosts, though chipmaker Nvidia lost ground and was a top drag for the benchmark after the Wall Street Journal reported the United States could impose new curbs on exports of artificial intelligence chips to China. Landsberg Bennett Private Wealth Management Chief Investment Officer Michael Landsberg said investors should be selling some of their stakes in the top technology stocks now.
We typically engage in rebalancing. We rebalance twice a year. So ironically, in January, we're adding to those tech names after a miserable 2022. And next month, July, is our time to rebalance in the summer. We're going to be taking money off the table there, not because we don't like the names, but they've certainly got ahead of themselves. So I think you need to have a discipline. You can't chase. I think a lot of people now are trying to chase things because these tech names are going higher. But in reality, they've gone higher because they went so much lower before. Even a name like Amazon, which is, up, 40, 50% this year, was down 50% a year ago, and it's still down over 20% from its highs. Yeah, this is a little bit of a bear market bounce. And I think on some of those names, take it while you can get it, rebalance your portfolio, trim those names that have run, and rebalance to some stuff that hasn't moved as much.
Other stocks on the move included Netflix, which gained 3% after Oppenheimer raised its price target, and General Mills, which slid 5% after the Cheerios maker gave a full-year profit forecast largely below analysts' expectations.
In market data for oil prices steadied a day after rising sharply on a bigger-than-expected fall in U.S. inventories as attention shifted back to rising interest rates, denting global economic growth. Brent crude futures were up 10 cents to $74.13, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 11 cents to $69.67 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
Thanks, Nanita. Over now to regional news. A former tourism minister is confident Barbados has now concocted the right formula to register a significant increase in visitor arrivals for the upcoming winter tourist season. Barbados' ambassador to the U.S. and Organization of American States, Noel Lynch, strongly believes there will be a further rebound for the island's tourism sector in the coming months.
There was a period when people were complaining a lot about the price of the actual tariff to be able to get a seat coming into Barbados. I think that is being resolved. The other issue that the team has been working on is working with the intermediaries to see how best we can get not only more airline seats available for people to come into Barbados, but advertising and promotion, because the people that really make a difference, and I don't think a lot of people recognize this, the tour operators are still responsible for maybe 85% of the people coming into Barbados. And I believe that the relationship that the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. has created with those intermediaries, Expedia and the like, to be able to get people to come to Barbados is making the difference. There was a period of time when there was a talk about some form of mismatch between what you actually got on the ground and what was the perceived value. But I believe that opening up of the Wyndham, the Sam Lodge Castle Hotel, I believe that the refurbishments that have gone on and what the government has been able to do to allow people to be able to get more quality rooms in Barbados has starting to make a difference.
Continuing with news from Barbados, while speaking at the opening of the 7th Caribbean Operators Conference, Acting Prime Minister Sanchia Bradshaw said Barbados wants regional utilities to collaborate in key areas of water and wastewater management.
We're in a fast-paced era where many things are fast changing. Even though some limitations may prevent us from always being on the cutting edge of technology, there's absolutely no excuse for us reneging on joint regional initiatives that see us pooling resources, whether human, financial, inventory, or otherwise. And there's clear evidence of consistent cooperation between the water and wastewater establishments and other agencies within individual countries. The next step, therefore, should be fostering consistent cooperation within the region. And we can only grow stronger together.
Capacity development and employee well-being have been identified by the ruling National Democratic Congress administration as key areas to focus to realizing its commitment to the nation. In his remarks on International Public Service Day, Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell reaffirmed the government's commitment to developing a sustainable, equitable and prosperous Grenada.
Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell said the vision of a hope-centered public service articulated by the Department of Public Administration is closely aligned to government's commitment to sustainable development.
The hope-centered public service represents H. Happy, the creation of a pleasant work environment where officers are helpful and provide services with a smile. O. Optimistic, the ability to cultivate a growth mindset where officers are open-minded, positive, and seek to find solutions rather than expand problems that can stagnate growth. P. Productivity, the successful implementation of an integrated performance management system where officers can understand how their roles fit within the government's overall development plan. E. Efficient and effective, a heightened awareness of the need for and importance of proper management of all resources.
He issued an appeal to all public servants to embrace the new vision, noting that a well-functioning and value-based public service is critical to government success in today's complex and interconnected operating environment.
Colleagues, government remains committed to developing a sustainable, equitable, and prosperous Grenada. However, this can only be realized through consistent efforts by all sectors to strengthen the meaningful partnerships.
Making the link between health and development, Prime Minister Mitchell says his government is also committed to ensuring significant improvement in the health sector, in keeping with Agenda 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which speaks to holistic health and well-being. As part of this year's activities, a mainstream public service health and wellness fair dubbed Know Your Numbers was held at the Sir Eric Matthew Geary Botanical Gardens last Tuesday through partnerships with key government and non-governmental organizations.
More than 150 public officers had the opportunity to get screening for hypertension, diabetes, sickle cell, hemoglobin, cholesterol, eye exams, pap smears, breast exams, and other pertinent health checks. Simultaneously, the Ministry of Health also launched primary health care in St. John. The main objective of SDG 3 is to ensure that all people, everywhere, have access to the highest attainable level of health. To this end, our Ministry of Health aims to bring health and well-being services closer to communities and to empower all citizens to take control of their own health.
Designated by the United Nations General Assembly, International Public Service Day is recognized each year to celebrate the value and virtue of public service to the community, highlight the contribution of public service in the development process, recognize the work of public servants, and encourage young people to pursue careers in the public sector. The curtains come down on this year's activities locally on Friday with the annual Public Service Fun Day at the Roy St. John playing field in Tantine. For GBN News, I'm Nisha Paul.
In international news, county officials in Florida have announced aerial treatments to kill mosquitoes after malaria was detected in the southern United States for the first time in 20 years. We have more in this report from Al Jazeera.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control has issued a nationwide alert after 5 cases of malaria were reported in 2 states over the last 2 months.
Each year, particularly before COVID, we saw about 2,000 cases of malaria in the United States each year. But that was from people who were traveling abroad and acquired it internationally. What is different this time and why we put out the health notice to doctors and to the public is we had 5 cases of domestically acquired malaria, meaning people got it from in the United States, 4 in Florida and 1 in Texas.
All of the patients are recovering after receiving medical attention, and so far there's no indication that the cases are linked. Malaria is caused by parasites carried by certain female mosquitoes. Symptoms include fever, chills, headache, muscle pain, and fatigue. It can also cause kidney failure, seizures, and coma. The disease is most common in warm countries, especially those with tropical climates. There were more than 600,000 deaths globally in 2021. But officially, malaria was eradicated in the United States in 1970.
It is a little alarming to have a disease that we've eliminated from the United States and then have these few local cases. But they are a few cases. And I think that public health measures are really important for both tracking where the malaria is and then therefore making any interventions like trying to prevent more mosquito bites, either by decreasing the mosquito population or asking everyone to wear mosquito repellent. Like these are all things that can prevent ongoing transmission.
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control stresses that the risk of malaria remains low in the United States. But there are fears that the record heat waves and storms that have been spawned by climate change are creating the conditions for malaria-carrying mosquitoes to breed and survive in areas where they previously could not. Shia Bertansi, Al Jazeera.
In other news abroad, support for Ukraine and migration policies are expected to top the agenda at a 2-day meeting of EU leaders in Brussels. Al Jazeera's Dominic Kane reports.
First thing to say is that there are, as you say, many different elements on this agenda, on the agenda here at this summit, particularly the situation in Ukraine, but there are many others insofar as the situation in Ukraine is concerned. We've heard from Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary General of NATO, standing next to the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, effectively saying variations on the theme that the two institutions have said since the start of what Mr. Putin would call that special military operation, the war in Ukraine, as the rest of the world might see it. Unanimity of purpose about Ukraine and the financial aid that's been proffered to Ukraine insofar as the EPF is concerned. That is the European Peace Facility, which was mentioned by EU foreign ministers earlier this week. But if there is unanimity or unity of purpose on Ukraine, there does not appear to be such unity insofar as migration is concerned. And that is another key theme at this summit. Certainly, there are two sides to the equation. Viewers might recall that 3 weeks ago in Luxembourg, EU interior ministers appeared to agree a deal by qualified majority voting. 21 nations out of the 27 voting for a deal on migration, 6 that did not vote for it. Well, today we know that the Polish ministers have said that they want a different plan, that they don't agree with the ideas that were put forward in Luxembourg, Mr. Morawiecki has said that he has something else in mind and has proposed something else, which would not require this qualified majority voting, which should be unanimously agreed. On the other hand, you have people such as Mrs. Meloni from Italy, the Italian Prime Minister, effectively saying the deal that was signed is very good, not just for Italy, but for the EU. So you have a certain element of fault line there, and then other nations too opining, as it were. Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, saying it's a good deal, it's a deal that the EU has thrashed out, people should stick to it. So clearly, Ukraine very important, but also migration is a key theme here.
In sports, Jamaica's Reggae Boys beat Trinidad and Tobago 4-1 in their Zone A game of the Concacaf Gold Cup played at City Park in St. Louis, Missouri on Wednesday. It was the first win for head coach Hymir Hallgrimsson since he took over the team last year. The team has earned 4 points after drawing 1-1 with the USA in their opening game on Saturday. Meantime, the Reggae Boys have gained a famous fan in the form of multi-award winning singer John Legend. The team posted a rendition of his hit song All of Me with goalkeeper and team captain Andre Blake at the piano. And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBC Jamaica. Thank you so much for watching.